everyone, Bob Burg back with another episode of Go Giver Influencers. This episode is influencer marketing, and we have a wonderful guest coming up who's going to share some hugely excellent, wonderful information about that topic. I can't wait. Here's what's funny to me. When I first heard the term influencer marketing, I didn't know what it meant. After John David Mann and I had announced that our new book's title was going to be The Go-Giver Influencer, people even asked, so is this about influencer marketing? And I didn't really know what they meant. And I think the reason is because I always thought there was influencer marketing. In all advertising on TV, when you see a celebrity who is hawking a product, right? I mean, for no other reason other than they're a celebrity, that's influencer marketing. The advertiser figures we like them, and if we like them, maybe we'll buy their product. I always thought it was funny when someone playing a doctor on TV would hawk a product. I remember when I was a kid, Marcus Welby was he was the family doctor, Marcus Welby, right? And Robert Young, who played the part brilliantly, and I remember he'd be on TV and he'd say something like, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV, which, meant, of course, we should listen to what he says regarding medical advice. Had the advertisers been more honest, they would have had him say, I'm not a doctor, I only play one on TV, meaning anything I say should have absolutely no meaning or credibility. You should do the research yourself, but that's a little much. But that's why that's influencer marketing. Influencer marketing is a form of social proof. Dr. Robert Cialdini talked a lot about social proof in his wonderful book, Influence, Science and Practice. Social proof basically just says that we have a tendency as human beings to make choices to act or to buy or what have you, based on others that we know have made similar choices. And this goes back to the days of the cave person, our cave person ancestors, where every day was literally, not figuratively, literally, a matter of life and death. And so they had to, that reptilian brain, which is designed to keep us safe, right? And so we make choices based on whether those in our tribe of 150 people decide to do something, because if they decided to do it, then probably makes sense. And please pardon me, I'm fidgeting with the camera here, trying to get it back because I bumped it out of the way. So there's my technical snafu for the day. We'll see how this works. So social proof is a form of influencer marketing. And then, when we ask for referrals, that's a form of influencer marketing. We're going in on borrowed influence, on borrowed trust, if you will. Well, that's fine. But nowadays, when you think of influencer marketing, it's much more about the internet, right? Because that's the medium of choice, it seems. And we happen to have someone with us today who has simply mastered that. Not just internet influencer marketing, but all sorts of influencer marketing and beyond. Her name is Cloris Kylie, and she helps her clients to create strong business foundations and tap into connections with influencers to build magnificent businesses, grow magnificent businesses that thrive. She's the author of a great new book. I want to hold it up for you. It's fantastic. It's called Beyond Influencer Marketing: Create Connections with Influential People to Build Authority, Grow Your List, and Build Revenue. Her website is ClorisKylie.com, where you can find her book. Also, we'll post that here in the discussion column, as well as a direct link to her book on her that is on her site. We'll do that a few times during the program. She also has a couple of wonderful podcasts. One is Beyond Influencer Marketing Podcast, as well as Magnificent Time for Entrepreneurs. Cloris, welcome.
I'm so happy to be here, Bob. Very excited.
Well, excited to have you. The only thing is, I always want to call you Clarice instead of Cloris. And I want to call you Clarice, like in the Silence of the Lambs. How Hannibal let Clarice.
Oh, gee, that's not a good image.
But, right. No, but it's not even spelled that way. It's Cloris, C-L-O-R-I-S. So how did an industrial engineer, okay, with really no experience with this type of marketing, just kind of come out of nowhere and all of a sudden become an expert at influencer marketing? And you're doing great things now. What's your story?
Well, it's quite interesting because we never know what life is going to take us to or where life is going to take us to. And I never thought I would be here. I never thought I would see you, somebody who I deeply admire, holding my book. And that means the world to me. And it all started with an interest in the world of marketing. When I was in industrial engineering school, I really wanted to go deeply into it. I was exposed to it. I loved it. That's why I went for my MBA in marketing at the University of Connecticut. And again, I started to become more and more interested in it. Later on, I started a business that was an offline business, okay? And I was helping students, college students, grad students, also high school students to get to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
I started to become a coach for them, but it was all local. It was a local business. And it was only when I switched to this online world that things changed for me. I started to realize that it wasn't as easy as it was before to get my name out. I had a book out. It was about how to overcome the breakup, pain of separation, divorce. And I wanted to help people overcome a life challenge. So first I thought, oh, I'll write this my awesome book and everybody will buy it. And soon I realized that wasn't the case. So I had this radio show. It's Magnificent Time for Entrepreneurs. And at the beginning, it was just me, just with monologues. I would read a book, talk about it, give my opinion. I had a blog. I would blog most days. And I wasn't making any traction. I was so frustrated. And yes, I was doing marketing, but I wasn't really doing any influencer marketing at the time. It was only when I realized that I could collaborate with people. I could bring in people to my show as guests and then leverage their existing audiences to grow my own. When I started to appear as guests on other people's shows and TV and write guest posts for other blogs, that's when things actually started to move for me. That's when I saw that positive momentum that just built and built. And that's how I became just so enamored with the concept of influencer marketing.
Oh, okay. So then I sort of gave my, not definition, but my explanation of what I always saw as influencer marketing. How do you define influencer marketing?
It was simply as to leverage an existing audience, a captive audience, to grow your own, to grow your business, to share your message. And that can only happen when you've connected with somebody who shares your values, and we'll talk about that later on today, and who you have taken the time to build a connection. Because you mentioned it, Bob, earlier, that people think, oh, it's just about the internet and about Instagram stars and just having them feature your product one time and then you're done. It's much more than that. That's why I call the book Beyond Influencer Marketing, because it's about building long-term connections.
Okay, so it's not about the influencer has to be somebody who everybody knows from everything. It's not like you need to get a Hollywood star.
Exactly. Yes, it's a common misconception. People think they have to connect with, Oprah to sell their book or reach out to Tony Robbins, but it really isn't about that. It's about finding people who have the same audience you want to reach, who you have a lot in common with.
So that's who's influential then in terms of, in this context. It's that person who has an audience that you'd like to reach, but you probably are not going to reach them at least as easily or effectively without their influence.
Well, it's true. I mean, you could, for example, have advertisements, right, and reach that audience. But when somebody sees an ad, they're not going to trust you, right? They'll trust you when somebody, for example, you, Bob, say, okay, well, this is Cloris. She knows about influencer marketing. Your audience, who is a captive audience, already says, oh, I want to listen what Cloris has to say. It's a huge difference. You don't have to warm up that audience, as they say in marketing. That audience is already warm and open to what you have to say.
Cloris. Okay, so let's get us started. How do we begin? And by the way, let's say it's a person who's the local insurance agent. How does that person tap into influencer marketing?
Yes, and it's something I actually was doing a little bit of when I had my local business, that I hadn't thought of influencer marketing, and it was. I needed to connect with parents and students, right? That was my audience, my captive audience. And just intuitively, I went out and created relationships with all the guidance counselors, of high schools in my area, in the greater Hartford area. I reached out to colleges too, and college counselors. So I developed those relationships. So when a student or a parent went to the counselor and needed help, who they referred them to me. So I started to build a business thanks to that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have survived. It was all thanks to them. So if you have a local business, just think about different ways that you can leverage those authorities in your community. It could be somebody who has a networking group. It could be a meetup group in your area. It could be networking. It could be an association. It could be the library, and anybody who has that captive audience you're trying to reach is a good person to connect with. Even other local businesses.
So what's the mistake people make then? They look at this as a great idea and they see, wow, there's, this is something I can really leverage and something that can really connect. What do they do wrong naturally as human beings? That just kind of happens before they know better.
Well, there are two things come to mind. First, if you think about this, the whole, the underlying principle in Beyond Influencer Marketing is the go-giver principle. I thought about this throughout the whole writing of this book. I said, really, it's true. It really is about giving. If you approach any relationship, including relationships with influencers, with the mindset of what's in it for me, then you're really not going to take that relationship far, really. It'll be maybe a short business transaction if anything happens. But when you go into the relationship with, how much value can I provide to this person? How can I help them? I mean, think about it. That's the law of influence and the go-giver. That's what it is. How much value can you provide to others? And when you go into the relationship with that thought, with that mindset, that's when things start to happen. And then another mistake people make is to think that these are one-off type relationships. Like, I'll have the Instagram star promote my product and then I'll make a ton of money and then I'll move on to the next Instagram star. But it really is about creating a network of allies and supporters, people who really believe in what you have to offer and who are happy to support you in the long term.
So let's break this up with a success story. Okay. And there were many in the book, of course. I happen to like this one, and you can see with my book how marked up it is, how many sticky notes. It's really good. Make sure you get this book. I know Kathy has put the URL a couple of times. She has on her regular page, ClorisKylie.com, but then you can also go to the book page, and from there you can either click right through to Amazon, or she has another page where there's all these great bonuses she's put together. So check that out. So this person's name is Creek Stewart, who had a survival training business in college, and then operated it for about 12 years without any web presence, and it was very challenging for him. How did he go about this, and what was his success? How did he do it?
Well, what Craig did, and was somebody who's really, really hardworking. So he really worked hard to build his presence in the local area. Still, though, it was very difficult for him. So he's a really talented writer, and he has just so much knowledge about survival skills. So he said, I'm going to just write this fantastic article for a survival blog, so people know about what I'm trying to teach, right? His goal. Now, what Craig's goal is to teach survival skills to as many people as possible. Okay, that's the mindset he has. It's not like, oh, how many people am I going to bring to my business? How many subscribers? It's about how many people can I help? And with that attitude, he wrote this article, sent it to a blog. He was rejected many times, so he continued to submit articles until one really relevant, a large site said, yes, we'll publish your article. As a result of that, he got thousands and thousands of followers, people who visited his site, who learned about his business. And that eventually led him to land, the guest role, not the guest role, the starring role in a TV show that I really loved. And that's how we actually connected on the Weather Channel. Yes.
And you know what I loved about that story? Yeah, the big hit came, but it wasn't because he was focused on the big hit, or as we say, hitting the home runs. He was hitting the singles and the doubles and so forth. And that, I guess, is an important part, right? As you begin the process and the journey of influencer marketing, it's making these connections, developing the relationships, not necessarily thinking you're going to connect with Tim Ferriss or, as you said, Tony Robbins or, you know, Ariana Huffington or Sheryl Sandberg, or thinking, oh, if I can just get this one person to, right? It's not that.
Yeah, it's the power of what I call niche influencers, people who might have a smaller audience, but it's an engaged audience. I mean, the audience really loves this person. That's what truly matters and what weighs the most.
Now, you talked about a number of factors that are important to consider when seeking the influencers. I'd be interested in knowing about that. I think a lot of people would be.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be different for the local insurance agent than it is for the online coach, let's say.
That's right. I mean, it's going to be a different kind of or category of influencer who you will reach out to. So, for example, if you're a local business owner, it would be great if you could connect with all other business owners and then leverage, you know, that connection. So, for example, let's say that you are a parenting coach. Why not reach out to the local toy store and give a presentation there? That's just a small example. And of course, if you want a business that is worldwide, then it's different. But what matters the most and what is common in all of these situations is the audience you're reaching, and that is the right audience, because you don't want to connect with somebody who has an audience that doesn't really relate to what you have to say, or that is not interested potentially in your products and programs. And the differences are really subtle. So that's why it's essential that you really know exactly that profile of the ideal client you want to reach. If I was going to connect with somebody who only works with software as a service companies, then they would not get value out of my message, because what I teach is not exactly just for them. So they would say, oh, I don't know, there's something about the message that I cannot relate to. And then, of course, the relationship could not create tangible results. So I think that's super important, Bob. And also that you actually share the same values and style with the influencer, because if it was going to be introduced to an audience who is used to a very different style, that it clashes with mine, people will just not relate to my message. They'll be like, oh, yeah, move on, right? So you got to find somebody who shares your values, your style, your audience, somebody who you're excited to meet and to do business with. I mean, Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say, I only spend time with those I want to be like. So ask yourself, do you want to be like the influencer? Do you love consuming their content, watching their videos, listening to their podcast? If that's a yes, then go for it. If not, then move on to the next person.
So you've picked out that person, those people, and now you want to establish, create, develop a relationship with them. Take us through, if you don't mind, the steps in reaching out to someone. And again, let's just say this is someone you can't necessarily call on the phone to get to speak with them or something. You're going to have to, over the internet, maybe connect with them in a certain way, maybe a little bit indirectly at first. I don't know. So take us through some of the steps for connecting with someone who, again, maybe not a huge celebrity in that sense of the word, but they are in their niche. Right. So you want to get yourself noticed by them. You want to connect with them. Take us through it. How?
Yes. Well, there's no better way to gain somebody's attention than by providing value to them, right? And you say it in the Go Giver Influencer, that you have to listen, to really listen and become empathetic with what they're going through, what they have to say, their story. And that's how I connected with a lot of people who I didn't know. I basically learned as much as I could about them. This man, Dave Lucas, who wrote a story for the book, I wanted to be on his podcast. So I read everything about him. I listened to his show. And one of the things he said is that his why of doing the show is because he wanted to leave a legacy for his daughter, Hannah, who he had adopted. It was a 2-year-old. I thought it was a great story. I said, yes, I get it. And that's what I said when I reached out to him. And I immediately got a yes. Yeah, I'd love to have you on my podcast. So I found something that he could relate to. And then I didn't just go on the podcast and forgot about Dave. Then I made sure that I developed as much value to him as possible. I introduced him to other people who could help him grow his business. I reviewed everything he needed to have reviewed and gave him my input. My expertise is value, right? So figure out what is the value that you have to offer. It could be, if it's an author, a book review, a podcaster, a review on iTunes, somebody local, then provide your expertise, your ideas. That's a currency. It's your ideas. But what you have to figure out is listen first, see exactly what is the best way to connect with this person, to deliver value to this person, and then take action. Just do it. Start one good action for that person will start the relationship.
See, there were gems in that answer, because it really took it from the, I'm going to hit someone up who I think can help me, to the, how can I provide value to this person? How can I do this in such a way that I make myself so valuable to them in a genuine way that they can't resist? I'm bringing so much value to their world that they can't resist reaching back out to me and including me in their world. Do people make a mistake, Cloris, in just trying to maybe write to someone and ask, will you take a look at my widget?
Yes. I mean, well, if you just go out with that intent, like, how can I gain value out of this relationship for me? Then that's what happens. You basically, it's a turnoff for the person.
Do people do that a lot? Do you find people do that in your experience? Is that one of the things when you are coaching them, let's say, or you're doing a call when you're talking about this, that sort of is an epiphany for them, that they can't just go right out and just ask someone for something, that it's really a matter of finding ways to provide value?
Oh, definitely. I see it all the time. And that's the approach that we always take, because we're always thinking, okay, how can I get what I want, right? Like, we're all focused on our own interests, but then we have to shift that, though, if we want to see results. I get emails every single day, and they say, oh, I'd love to be on your podcast. This is who I am, and this is why I'm so wonderful. And they don't really show that they actually listen to my show or that they know my business. Some people don't even bother to write my name. They say, hi, comma, I want to be on your show. So, yeah. So it's about that. It's about, like, really showing the person that you care about them. Otherwise, they will ignore you, especially if there are people who are super busy. They have a larger size audience. So, yeah.
Okay. So I love success stories. Tell us about another one of your clients, let's say, who came to you and you were able to sort of guide them through the process.
I love I created a group coaching program, actually, to go with the book. And it's called 10 Influencers in 7 Weeks. And what we do in that program is that we get people going and get them empowered that they can do this. Because this is one thing. If you feel like, okay, I don't know about this influencer stuff, I'm not ready, then you will never start, and you will never see results, and will never feel empowered to continue. So what we do, our goal is to connect with 10 people of influence who can help you grow your business in those 7 weeks. And one, aha moment that one of my students had, he said, I had all of these connections already, and I had lost touch with all of them. These were fantastic people who we could do business together, and I basically had lost touch. So when when we worked through the whole process, he realized that he only had to go and reach out and see how they were, just to be back in touch. He said he started to do phone calls with these people who already know him from the past, from years ago. They reconnected. And just by doing that, by rekindling those relationships, he landed 2 new contracts, one $9,000 contract, $6,000 contract, people who he knew for years, okay, and he never stayed in touch. Just by doing it, just by showing these people that he cared about them, that he wanted to stay in touch, he saw results. So just think about that, though. Think about connections that you haven't talked to in a long time, and who really matters and who you want to be back in touch with.
Let's talk about testimonial endorsements and blurbs. Certainly one reason why when you write a book, you have them is so other people, again, social proof. So they'll see that somebody else who they respect or whatever has said something nice about it. But the heater repair person or the local insurance person or whomever it happens to be, they also will seek out endorsements. I would say the best one for an influencer to do for you if they were going to is probably a video one, right? That seems to have. And I would say also, and that can be local too. And you see many real estate salespeople, chiropractors, plastic surgery doctors, they'll have on their sites, they'll have a lot of these. But it also can be difficult to get them, not because someone doesn't want to do them, but because people are busy, but also they don't necessarily know what to say.
Right.
How do you coach an influencer who would like to help you and would like to provide a video, or it could be written too, but we'll just say video in this case because it's a little harder. How do you coach them how to do it in such a way that it's not just, yes, I used so-and-so, right, it was a good job. They could say, I used comma, it was a good job. I mean, it's like, it's no right different. How do you coach them to do it so that it's going to get the best results?
Yes, I think if you have to make it as easy as possible for them to get this done. When you facilitate things, people take action and do it. So yes, I think the most important thing is for them to explain how things were before and their point A, before they work with you or before they used your product, and what happened in point B when they actually got results from whatever it is that you offer. So before I met Cloris, I was here and there, like I couldn't get my message out. We worked together and she taught me things that I never thought about, connecting with influential people. So it's important that you try to encourage them to express an aha moment, something that they said, oh yeah, when I use this product, when I use this service, something came to me. I changed something in my process, in my business, in my life, and this is what happened. So it doesn't have to be too long. If it's a video, I would say 45 seconds should be the maximum. And before, after, aha moment, if possible, and you're golden. That's all they need to do. And again, make it as easy as possible. Give them ideas, give them examples. If somebody sees an example of another testimonial, then at least they can follow that.
Mm-hmm. Very good. One more specific area, and this is for those who want to make the jump and go on to TV shows. Mm-hmm. And again, if you can do this locally in your market, it's fantastic. Again, much better than an advertisement. In this case, the influencer is the TV show in a sense, right? So for the person who wants to do that, what's the best way for them to go about it? What's the step-by-step process, if you will?
Well, first, you definitely have to know the show. So watch it. It sounds so intuitive, but people skip that step.
No, I love that. And I don't mean to interrupt you, and I apologize for that. But I want to bring this up again. And because you talked about that when you were talking about approaching an influencer. You talked about reading their materials, learning about them, knowing about their personal wants, desires, and so forth. And then you said the same thing with the TV. Know the station, know that particular show, know who the hosts are and what they try to do. So go ahead. That, again, it was just so fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Bob. Yeah, so that's so important. So then that way you'll know, first of all, what the show emphasizes, and you will get an idea of what the audience of the show wants and needs, so you can provide that. So if you give the producer of the show, which you can reach for local TV is very easy, just go to their contact page and send a message through the contact form. Yes, they read it because producers need great ideas. So just submit 3 ideas, not just 1, but 3 that could be useful for the audience, and always position that as, I have these amazing ideas that your audience will love because of this and that. And don't say, I would love to be on your show so you can promote my book or whatever.
Right. Because they don't care about that.
That's right. And then, you after you do your presentation, then they will tell people about your business. Plus, if you deliver value, the audience, the viewers will see like what you have to offer, and they will want to connect with you. And that's how I landed dozens of appearances in local TV, just because of that, because I always position my ideas on, okay, how can I help the audience of the show. And that's why it worked. So I continue to build a relationship with the new producers. I stay in touch with them because the producers, they change, they go, they get a new position. They have a baby, I send them a congratulations card, new baby card. And Christmas, I send them a card. That's the way. You have to stay in touch with all of these influencers because you want to, because you really like them. And that's how you see long-term success.
Cloris Kylie's book is Beyond Influencer Marketing. I'm going to hold this up and make sure you can see it. Create connections with influential people to build authority, grow your list, and boost revenue. Her main website is ClorisKylie.com. I know Kathy has put that up on the page. And when you go there, there's also a site directly to her book page where she has a bunch of great bonuses. You can also go right to Amazon.com if you want. But get this book. This is just, there's great information in here. Fantastic. Congratulations on this book and for all the work you're doing, because really I say came out of nowhere, but you worked at it. You built this, you developed this, and you didn't really come out of nowhere. You came out of everywhere, but now you are everywhere and just doing a fantastic job. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Bob, for what you do. You are an inspiration, and this is a blessing to have connected with you.
Well, thank you. The blessing is mine. And on behalf of Cloris Kylie, I'm Bob Burg, wishing each and every one of you a fantastic week. We'll be back next week with another episode of Go Giver Influencers. Make it a great day.